Welcome to the Logan Hillyard podcast, where real stories meet real healing. I'm your host, Logan Hillyard, and this space is for anyone who's walked through darkness and dared to keep going. Each week, we dive into raw conversations about trauma, faith, growth, and most importantly, purpose. Because the hardest parts of life often lead to the most beautiful parts of us. Thank you for being here, and let's get into it. All right, Tyler Gould. Thanks for being on the podcast. Tyler is a rising country star based out of Utah, where we are at. Tyler and his band are blending modern country music, Americana, and rock roots. Every song tells a different story of his personal trials and triumph. The goal is to create a little something everyone can relate to. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on here, is you have quite the story and you've been through a lot, and that shows through your music. And I think that's why it's so impactful to people. So just to start out, thanks again for being on here, and let's tell us a little bit about where you are at today and what you're going on, and your family. And
yeah, man. First, thanks for just having me out. We've been talking about doing this forever, and so excited to be here and just let's get it done, man. So to dive in, just a little bit about me. I've got 4 kids that are just the absolute joy of my life, as well as my wife, Diana, who has supported me through the tail end of me trying to figure out how to keep my life put together, and really has played a huge role in making that possible for me. Life overall is good, man. I've got a good job that I work. I'm able to do a lot with my music. Things are growing and progressing every day through that. And really, I couldn't be happier. I think things are really just cruising along perfect right now.
And so I guess we can just get right into it. I want to know what led you to this point. And then the great part about it is that I love is when people go through something and then pursue a dream. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Life has been crazy for a lot of years. And now is finally kind of like the dust has settled and things are beautiful again. But to just kind of go all the way back, I was raised in a really great home, have wonderful parents that took really good care of me and gave me lots of opportunities to try different things. I was a big sports fanatic when I was a kid. Loved all the extreme sports, loved the team sports, found music when I was like 15, is where it really sunk its teeth into me. That's when I started guitar, played drums and piano before that. But when I found the guitar, it really sunk its teeth in, and that's where I began wanting to sing. And then I tried out for American Idol. Actually, I stayed at your house the night before that, so we didn't have to go so far. My mom was like, I think, terrified to take her 15-year-old son to go do this big thing, and it turned out great for me. Went through a couple rounds, and that gave me a big vote of confidence. And fast forward a little bit, wanting to find things to write about, being curious as a kid, just starting to wonder what it's like to get in trouble. I got in a lot of trouble when I was 15, got kicked out of school. That gave me a lot more time to play guitar. I really sunk into writing music and singing and talking about what I was feeling and how I was feeling, and observing things from other people and just letting that kind of develop and find my voice, I guess, in that. And as things progressed, I started to experiment with drugs. I'd been in trouble and arrested for involvement with some of that before, but never had really used drugs. And then that just really got its teeth in me. Started gradual, it starts always gradual, but the next thing I knew, I was strung out, homeless, living in my car. I lived in my car in high school, and I'd repeated that process many times over.
So did you run away, get kicked out?
I wouldn't say I got kicked out. I'd say I made a conscious decision to leave my parents' house because my dad gave me kind of a choice. Like, these are the rules of the house. You've got to follow them. And if you can't follow them, then you can't be here. So make your decision, right? And I was out of there. I was like, forget it. You can't accept me how I am. I'm out of here, just defiant. Just was at that age, and it's interesting to look back on that now, and I really wouldn't change the decision, I don't think, that I made, because I learned a lot in the back of that car. I learned a lot through my struggles and my adventures. My parents really never just left me hanging, I wouldn't say, right? They always had my back, more times than not. had dad come into the rescue to scoop me up, right? And I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have that. Not everybody does.
Yeah, one thing you said right there that I think is really important, and it's continuous through the people I talk to and through myself, is once you figure out that after the hard is the thing, that's the part. I think that life's meant to be hard,
Yeah.
and it's meant to be hard because that's the time that we become the most vulnerable and the time that we can learn. And then there has to be a point later on where you make the decision to make those life lessons. But once you get to that point and you find happiness and you like who you become, you don't regret
Yeah.
the life that you lived.
No,
And
yeah, it shapes you, but in the middle of it, it's like, what am I doing right now? And
right.
you get so stuck in it that like you're convinced that like the way that you're trying to get out of it is going to get you out. And it just like that cycle just perpetuates and continues to go down and down and down. And I got stuck in that for so long. I mean, I think I went to like 13 different rehabs. Granted, some of them I was only there for like a few days. I'd overdosed and able to pull through that and come back from that. And, I spent years homeless in Hawaii, which was probably one of the greatest adventures of my life. In fact, that was the last couple of years before I came back to Utah and met my wife. That part of my life played a huge impact on me as a human being.
So what are some experiences, the moments in your life that you remember that you had to make a decision whether you were going to keep going, you were going to give up, the decision to move to Hawaii? Like there's got to be those moments in your life that just stick with you. And in the moment they sucked.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what shaped you at this point. But
I remember the decision to move to Hawaii. I had been wanting to go to Hawaii my whole life. My family being from there on my dad's side, like I just wanted to be down there and connect with that part of my soul, right? And one of my cousins had moved down there, and I had reached out to her. I was sitting in a sober living in Mission Viejo on a back porch and like messaging her on Facebook because I had sent her a message a few days prior, like, hey, if I wanted to come out to Hawaii, like, could you help me like figure out what that looks like, right? And she was all about it. And so I was in a good place at that point. I was ready to leave, and like so I came home, was doing well here. My cousin came into town. I had like still been wanting to like make that move, but she came into town and was like, well, I'm going back. Like you should just come with me. And I was like, I have like no money, but I just went, right? Like found a cheap flight out of Seattle and took a bus up to Seattle to fly out of there. And, I don't know, it was like just such an awesome start to my adventure anyway.
With no plans.
With no plans. Like just, I had like, I think my mom and dad probably helped me with my plane ticket because I had nothing. And then I had like 450 or $500, something like that, to like go start a new life in one of the most expensive places to live in the country, right? And just was like, I'm going for it, right? And my cousin helped out a lot for a little bit. And then like I was looking for a job, but I didn't really want to work. Like I just wanted to enjoy being there. And that was like a tug of war so bad. I just didn't want to buckle down. I just wanted to play. And so I was staying with my cousin. Eventually like that wore out because I wasn't paying anymore, like, you know what I mean? And so
you wore out your welcome eventually.
Yeah, not with her, but like she's renting a place there, right? And so it was kind of like, you gotta go, bro. I'm like, yeah, I know. So some people took me in. I stayed in this like really cool military truck for a little while, and I just ran all over that island. But like the goal while I was there became like, have a once in a lifetime experience the struggle and understand what life looks like from these people that have like spent their lives like living on the street or on the beach or whatever. And you meet this interesting mix of people, like people that just have made this conscious decision that that's just like how they're going to live, especially down there. I wouldn't say that's true everywhere, but down there's people that just have chose to live like differently than what it looks like for most of us in this country. And I really admired that. And then there was other people that you could tell were there because of their own vices and their own struggles. And those things found me down there as well. And that finally led to like a point where I was sleeping in this little tin shack. Some people would know where it's at down there by this little freshwater pond, like off of Kamehameha Highway down there. And My sister Chelsea called and was just like, you're coming back home for Thanksgiving. Well, we're going to go to Vegas and like, we're going to help get a plane ticket to go there and stuff. Right. So I was like, I'll go, but I want a round trip ticket. Like I'm coming back.
Let me put this a little closer to your face. I'm a little concerned.
Coming back to my little tin shack after going there.
And how old were you at this point?
At that point, I'm 26.
And so do you think this, were you still trying to like live this life to try to figure out what to write music about? Was music a big part of your life during this era?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like how I fed myself. Like they had an open mic night at the Surfer Bar in right by the Turtle Bay Resort there. That was like my haven. Like every Thursday night, I believe it was like open mic, and I was just always there just because like I kept getting guitars stolen and I didn't have a guitar to play. So it was like I knew if I showed up there, I could play and I could perform, right? And then guitars kept finding their way back to me. So I'd perform on the street, sell coconuts with a buddy of mine. I just had so many people take good care of me down there. But it was at the point now where like I just couldn't stay sober. I wasn't sleeping. Like I was starting to lose it, like in bad shape, super underweight. And just my sister was like, you're coming, we'll get a round trip ticket, whatever. I talked to my parents, blah, 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 blah. Finally get it onto the plane and get there, right? And once I got there, I was like, there's no way I'm going back. Like it felt so good to be like in a bed, go to a restaurant, have a meal, like have a shower. I was like, oh my gosh, feel loved, right? Feel like embraced by people you trust and know like there's no alternative motive, right? Because that's the hard thing too. Sometimes living that lifestyle, it's like you stop trusting people, and so like you're always have your guard up, kind of so to speak, right? Then I come home, and fast forward a few months later, we're in March now at that point, and my sister passes away unexpectedly. And that, at that point, like I was still doing things. It wasn't like necessarily I had sunk so far back into certain things, but I was just like on that road again to where it was just going to be bad. And when she passed away, like I went downhill, and at the funeral is where like my wife used to work with her. So that's how, me and her met was through that. And we went on a date a little while later, after chatting and, for a few days. And that started to change everything. Like I started spending more time with her and less time with my friends, and kind of starting to sober up a little bit here and there. But I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And eventually she found out about that, right? And for the first time, I found like a woman that just stood by me. She called my parents. She called like a doctor friend of ours that all sat me down and were like, dude, what are you freaking doing? Like, are you going to put your parents through this again after they just lost a daughter, right? Like, what are you doing? And finally, I got a little bit of help, like on a medication for some time, and like just started to piece together some time under my belt of like staying away from everything and staying out of trouble. And things just started to grow and blossom from there. And my journey through like my addiction looks so much different than most people's. I don't do like the 12 steps, and although I have done them to some extent, I wouldn't say I've completed them as thoroughly as a lot of people do. But I just made a conscious decision, like I was not going to be that person anymore. And so I decided I didn't like to go to like those meetings anymore at a certain point in my recovery, because I didn't want to like give it that much power over me in my life. It just didn't make sense to me. I understand the program and I understand the support mechanism, and I'm blessed and fortunate enough that I have people around me that I can use as my support system that understand my journey.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of my success of like where I am today, and from what you've said, is the people that you surround yourself with, and is even more interesting. So you said going back to my friends, so it's really who you surround yourself with, and so having your family obviously has been, and like I said before we even started this, I said your mom has been there every step of the way.
Oh yeah.
And then even now, like I get a text message. I don't think I had a number saved or something. I'm like, who is this? And it's like a text message about going to vote for you for something or going
Oh
to.
yeah, for the Rolling Stone, America's Top Hit Maker. She was all about that, dude. She's like the biggest cheering section ever. So, and you're right, dude. Like the support is everything. Like I couldn't have done any of it without the support of my wife and my siblings and my parents. Like, and my family in general. And that extends through aunts, uncles, grandparents. You know what I mean? Like goes like so deep for me.
And how from being in that struggle and meeting your wife then, how did that help with how you connected with? That has to be like a deeper connection that someone that stands up for you and supports you and wanted to be there and saw the darkest parts of your life, but still wanted to be a part of it.
It's comforting for like me as an individual, right? Because like she knows all the nittiest, grittiest pieces of my soul, right? And she's still there by some miracle. But like that, our relationship, you know, it's been tested mostly by me always in the beginning, you know, pushing her patience level and like not doing things that I should have been. But now like things are great. You know, I make like the conscious decision every day to just try and do my best. And that's all I really ever can do. My mentality has completely shifted. Like I don't talk that much anymore about like all my journey through my past because it's kind of irrelevant to me. Like I used to go really into the nitty gritty of like, this is what I used to use and this is what I used to do and this is how I did it. And like, you got to understand all these little layers. You don't, because like you can use your wildest imagination of somebody that's like strung out and homeless and understand like where I was, right? Because that's where I was. And so like, I've just made this shift that it's like, that's not who I am anymore. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a musician and I'm doing my best to like try and leave a mark on the world. Hopefully, that like is something that my kids could be proud of to say that like this is what my dad stood for, right? Because I write from a different place now. It's like I write when I sit down to write or I sit down to sing or do something, it's like it comes out from a different piece of my soul because I understand that like I'm leaving something more behind now that's like for even if nobody else ever bought it or listened to it or read it or whatever, like it'll be there for my kids and hopefully my grandkids. And like, well, that changed like what I want them to remember and know about me, right? There's definitely going to have to be like a section that's like, when you're 18, you can open this box and you can read these books because there's a lot of things in there that like, man, I had some fun times too. You know, we had a lot of good times through the chaos and, I met some of the greatest people in the world that I know, like sitting on the beach, sitting on the street in Hawaii, and even here in Utah. I've met like some wonderful, wonderful people that just have had things stacked against them. And, you know, and a lot of people just don't pay attention to that. They don't sympathize for that. I wanted to understand that. I wanted to like realize what it was like to be on that side.
And what's something that those conversations has taught you and something that you've brought through your life because of those life lessons and maybe that was just realizing what you had and what somebody else didn't have, you know?
Yeah, so I can think of a good friend of mine in Hawaii. We'd ride around in his freaking white car all over that island just chasing trouble. He's an older gentleman. He had some grown kids that like he doesn't really see anymore. But he would talk to me kind of about like wanting to talk to them. And I think like we hung out together well because I probably wasn't like super far off from his son's age at the time. Right. And so I think there was like a little bit of a connection there or something, but I just remember him like talking to me about how bad he missed like his kids and couldn't be a part of their lives anymore. And like, didn't really hear from them. And I didn't have kids at that time, but I just like remember being so grateful for like the relationship I had with my family. And then you fast forward a little bit, and when I'm like in the thick of things, and I've got these two kids that are like, we weren't married at the time, but I'm dating their mother, and like that, I'm starting to like become part of their unit, right? Their family. Like, what am I going to emulate, and like, what are they going to remember about me? And, you know, what kind of example am I going to leave for them along the way? And now I think of those conversations with him, and like, I have such a true value and love and appreciation for like where I'm at in my life, because like I could have totally been on the opposite side of this coin. Most people like it that have been through things that I've been through probably are, and I'm not saying I'm unique or special in any way. I just have figured out what works for me on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of that just, I was blessed to know like what I wanted to do with my life. And so I've like dove full into my purpose of that, and like trying to share a message of things. And that's like grown and shifted too. Like what's important to me to speak up about, you know, even like the song American Proud. I'm like the last person in the world to have any judgment or like negative thought about anybody and what they want to be in this world. I don't really care. I don't necessarily like when I feel like people are being ushered or like pushed at a young age, especially into thinking certain things, right? I think like that should be developed at home in the comfort of their loving family, right? And not everybody has that. And so I get like why there's things that create resources for kids that don't have that support, right? But it gets messy. And so like what I felt like it shouldn't have happened around here when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And that's what led me to like want to write this song called American Proud. And that's what led me to like start thinking about things even in a different light. Like what are we really at like as a country? Like what is our state like even right now? Like what am I going to be leaving for my kids, right? And I started to like really deep dive, although I'd known who he was and I'd always watched a lot of his videos and stuff, and like at some points even thought like, dang man, like that response is harsh. I get like the shtick of what he was doing, right? He debates, like if you're not doing that, you're probably not going to be very popular, right?
Right.
So I understood all that. But it like wasn't about any of that. The way like the song came about, it was about like this guy that stood up for what he believed in, and like his life was taken and his family just lost like their father figure. Right?
So from either side of the spectrum,
So it doesn't
still
matter.
a tragic
like,
event.
It doesn't matter who you are, what your beliefs are, what your political views are. Like take the head of your house. Doesn't have to be dad. Can be sister for all anybody knows in today's world, right? And remove that dynamic from your home and see what's left, right? Any dynamic of anybody's family or home, like it's going to rattle you. It's going to shake you. And I could look at that from a different perspective, having like young kids now. And like that drive has been driving like everything. You know, I'm not a religious person, although I'm a very spiritual person. And that served me very well throughout my life. Like, understanding for me like how to pray in my own way to like feel like I'm, whether you believe in a deity or not, just like talking that out, or like or a higher power or whatever, just talking that out loud to like your higher self and processing those things is like crucial to me, right? And I can only speak for me, but like I have to be able to sort through my thoughts in my brain and like process those things. And it's the same way that I process like my traumas, right? The things that I've been through in my life. If I look at my life and I think about my trauma, like my trauma is so minimal probably comparatively to most people like that have trauma, right?
Well, I always say there's that if you look back at your own life, like I look at my life, I have a crazy life, but to me, it was just like, it's just whatever. It was
life.
It was life.
It's just what you've known.
And so
right?
I think everybody that goes through something kind of downplays it. I went through and it wasn't, I mean, it was bad, but
yeah, like some people I talk to, they're like, you lived out of your car? You were homeless for how long? Like, wait, you had like a hose hooked up in a banyan tree to like shower? You'd boil your water to do that? They're like, oh my God, like what a hard life you've had. And I'm like, dude, that was the coolest times of my life ever. Like I was literally just like one of the lost boys, like living in the jungle, and it was hard as shit. But like I was having so much fun, right? Granted, if I was forced to be there and like I knew I had no way out, it'd probably be a little bit different, right? Mm-hmm. And so like I have that perspective. I always knew like I'm not gonna let myself get stuck here, right? Like I just wouldn't.
Well, I also think like what we go through was like in a sense meant for us because there are life lessons. And so what I go through, maybe you're like, oh, I could never imagine going through that. And the same thing. So when people are surprised of what you went through, it just wasn't their trial, but I'm sure they have something in their life that's
Exactly.
wild. But one thing you talked about is having purpose, and I'm huge on purpose because I found that like the further I've went away from the norm and the closer I've been to like finding what I feel to be a purpose to share stories to help people get through life, the happier I've been. And so now looking at your life and everything you've been through and where you are now, fulfilling your purpose of sharing these emotions and these feelings and getting like, well, here's a question for you. What music, like you obviously you play and write music, but what music got you through some stuff? Not necessarily what music, but how has it affected you, like listening?
Music changes everything for me in my day and like my cadence oftentimes, but like through some of my darkest times, and it's like gradually changed over the years, but I always find my way back around to this, it seems like. And I'll think of Hawaii played such a big crucial part for me because I didn't most of the time I was there, I didn't have a phone, and if I did have a phone, like the only reason I had it was so I could save my playlists on Spotify or my downloaded playlists and just like be able to listen to music because that was my, like I needed that a lot of times. And I had like BB King on there on repeat, Live at the Regal, one of my favorite albums of his. Buddy Guy, another one. I listened to a lot of Bob Marley while I was there too. I love like his political stuff and just like his so much more than just about the music with me for him. And Gary Clark Jr. was another big one on that playlist. There's a band called Houndmouth, Audio Slave. Like it goes all over the place. There was a lot of that though, blues and kind of like rock and roll and that at that particular time.
And when you're feeling a certain way and you can just go, and that's like almost what you can turn to just get you through the day or the hour.
Yeah, I listen to that same playlist actually. It's called Coming Home on my Spotify. And I listened to that on my way up here actually.
Well, I'm going to somehow find out how to share it so everybody can download it from
I
you.
can probably make it shareable on there. Pink Floyd's always played a big role in my music. I had a Live from Pompeii video when I lived with my uncle for a little bit, like in high school, and I watched that thing like relentlessly, man. And so like their experimentation, all that, like really plays a big part. But what I listen to is interesting too, because it's not necessarily what I write. Like as I grew and as I've grown, I realized like so many of the songs that I was writing like fell into this like structure of and like similarity to country music, which is why I think I've found like a little bit of a home there. I really love stories and music. That's why I love the blues. Like, and I love like a wailing guitar solo, right? And just like that emotion that they can pull on. And so I've really gravitated towards the blues for a long time. And country was like around. I remember my mom like singing Shania Twain and and my sister listening to the Dixie Chicks and Rascal Flatts and like all these people. And I always like listened to it, but country wasn't that cool when I was a kid. Like it was cool if you were like a cowboy and like you like were a country boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't. So and I was angsty, right? So I liked a lot of rock and roll and stuff. But when I started playing guitar, it was kind of in this wave of like kind of the indie folk and like scene getting more popular. I was always a really big fan of Bob Dylan, which is funny because a lot of people don't like him, but I really love his stories and his songwriting. But he's one of my favorites, and I remember like falling in love with like the stories and like being like, that's kind of what I want to do. Like I want to tell stories about what I'm going through, and that shifts and grows, and you have to learn how to like adapt to what people want to listen to as well. I try really hard to not like write from that space of just like what people want to hear, but just like stick true to what I have to say and what's kind of more authentically me and feels true.
At what point did music become, it's always obviously a huge part of your life, but at what point did you feel like this is my purpose? And did you make the huge jump of like, you're big on conscious decisions. So what conscious decision, like, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to do whatever it takes. Because anybody that knows anything about music is to get into the industry, to make it a full time, provide for your family, is a lot of work and a lot of years.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like I feel like I got this big head start on my music because I was like so into it as soon as I started. Like I picked up the guitar, I like knew I wanted to write and I wanted to perform and I wanted to play. And I did this battle of the bands. Like I was supposed to be drumming with the band for that battle of the bands, and I'd like been fooling around with the guitar and I showed my buddy this song I had like been working on. It was called Over My Head, I think. And he was like, dude, you got to play that. Like, you got to do that. You got to do your own thing. And so I signed up for that. And that was a good indicator for me. It was like, oh, yeah, I love being on stage. Like, this was fun.
And did you find it just naturally easy to be up there?
I wouldn't say it was like naturally easy for me to be up there. I still sometimes feel stiff on stage. It took me a long time to like find that place of like comfortability, and even still with like covers, it's not my, I try to pick songs that align with my soul as close as they can, but it's not mine. Right. Mm-hmm. And so like I have to approach that from like a different angle, and sometimes that's different, but like I knew I wanted to do it from the minute I first stepped on a stage. That's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I just have not let go of it. And some people probably are like, dude, come on, bro. And I won't let go. And every year I get a little bit more success and I get a little bit closer, and I'm having fun the whole time doing it. So why would I stop?
Well, I think that most people think that it just happens. You get Justin Bieber and it all this magically, all this comes together. But most people that make it, is the struggle for years and not giving up. And that's anything, not just music. There's a long battle to success, and that's why not everybody's successful, is because they give up and it's too long or it's too hard. Mm-hmm. But let's go to like the point we left off. You were dating and working, obviously. Now. So get us through that point of what got you into actually doing music almost, daily at this point.
My wife was a huge proponent in that, because she gave me time, like as I sobered up, to kind of just like be able to focus on that for a little bit. And that was huge for me. I was working, but I had like a lot of time to just focus on my music. And that was great. And so she booked my very first gig when I came back was for a little girl who had a brain tumor at my kid's private school. Ryan Shoup and like the Rubber Band came and played, and I played right before them at this assembly for her. And that was my first performance since I'd been back from Hawaii, and I performed while I was in Hawaii quite a bit, but that was like the first big one here, and it was for a bunch of young kids. I had a blast doing it. And then a buddy of mine, Kes Edmonds, he's also a longtime friend and bandmate. He booked a show with me to play this bar in Provo called City Limits, and we did that. And then my wife just kept pushing me. She bought me these records for my birthday. She took me into the record store after we went to this open mic in Provo, and that like led to my next big gig, which was there. And the owner of that store at Platinum Music and Sports Collectibles that was in Provo, Steve Nuttall is his name. He was responsible for booking me in front of like Billy Dean, 3 nights sold out, Franklin Covey Center. He booked me with Jamie O'Neill and Ty Herndon, and led me to meeting Jamie O'Neill and Rodney Good, who produced the 3 songs that are out on Spotify right now, Tainted Meditation and No Air. And is working on a couple more for me right now actively. And so like it changed everything, and really like I'd become a little bit weird while I was in Hawaii, I think. I spent so much time like by myself.
A little vagabond makes you a little weird.
Yeah, just a lot of time alone, became a little bit like strange and want to just like isolate a little bit. And so like writing and creating and performing like in the basement was cool. Like I felt good right there for quite a while, right? And she kind of pushed me out of that zone, and then it remembered like, oh, it's not that bad to be on stage when you haven't slept in 2 days and you're not paranoid about who's in the audience or what's watching you or whatever, right? It's like, oh, this is fun again. And that just kind of led off to the races, man. Just like one thing after another, boom. Then Steve helped us get booked in Idaho, and now we're flying out to Nashville to cut these songs, and and I'm hanging out with these people that like in places I never thought I'd ever be, dreamed about, wanted to be, but like wasn't sure if I could get there. And like that layer each year keeps coming, like gets a little bit better and a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter, and in some capacity, whether it's not just music, but like having like the birth of my kids, the best days of my life, being able to like be there while we brought them into the world, right? And now just like every day, it's just like gets better and better. It just keeps plugging along, right? Yeah, and even the shitty days, because don't get me wrong, man, there's shitty days. I'm still a grumpy asshole, like at least probably 80% of the time. But like I try my best not to be, and like keep my things together. And it's interesting now as you start to mature and you start to like come out of the cycle of things more and more and more, you realize how much of that still comes with you, right? Like how much of the immaturity that you developed through like the time you just decided to stop growing and just like be a knucklehead, like how much of that comes with you, like the level of like frustration I can get sometimes, like when things don't go my way or go right. And I try to not like externally show that, and I try to like sort it through but it's just like, it's just a natural tick reaction within my brain from like years of not coping with things, right? Or not like addressing it even. Yeah. Like, oh, that's terrible that just happened. I'm not going to think about it. Like, I just move it aside, right? And you get to a point in your life where it's like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. Like,
they're always back there haunting you.
Yeah. Way. And like now I got like real things I have to worry about, right? Like, other people rely on me. I have to make sure like things get done. So I can't just push off the stress of my day and like shut it down. And there are points where like I have to do that throughout my day. And music for me is a huge way that I do that. Right. And that's how I sort through my shit.
Yeah. The opportunities is where success comes from. And I looked at it. I think when you were younger, you're like, some people get opportunities and some people don't. And as I've gotten older and I've kind of made these conscious decisions to do certain things, it's all become that, yes, they're all opportunities, but they're opportunities that you find. Mm-hmm. And when you live life in pursuit of your purpose is where these opportunities come. A great example is walking to the record store. Such a simple thing, but where did that lead you? All because you were on a path to having your purpose, and then going to Nashville and everything you're doing now. What is some of the things that have just the small decisions that maybe you weren't going to make that led you to something greater?
That seems to happen a lot in my life. It's like all the times I don't want to do something, it is when it gets interesting. Like, for example, even like sometimes there's times where like I just am tired. I don't want to go out to like a networking event or a social event. It's just like, all right, I'll pull it together and go. And my wife's always like, every time you don't want to go and you go, it's like something good happens, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know. So I always go, right? And it usually turns out to be great, right? Even like the day that I think we went to open mic, I was like, I don't know. I think we're kind of late. Like, screw it. Like, let's not go. Like, no, let's just go. I want to show you the record store. I bought your birthday present anyway. So off we went, right? Those like little things are stuff that I think still like are impactful that like make or break sometimes things. But like, you asked me earlier, like, when did I know what I wanted to do? And you talk a little bit about like, opportunities in your life. And I have so vividly seen exactly what I want my life to look like, to the point where it's written out like it's a script for a movie, right? And I read it every single day and I have it memorized and I review it in the mirror and I start every paragraph with, I'm so happy and grateful that, right? And I spell my life out like a movie. And I don't know if it'll come true to look exactly like that, but like all the things that happen on the interim in between, I'm not worried about what happens on the way there. It's like, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm going to do because I know that this is what I want. Right. And for me, it's not about like obtaining things. I want nice things. Everybody wants nice things, right? I want enough to get by. I want to like give my kids a good life. But I want to have success so that I can do something impactful for other people. Like me making more money through music and things and like getting more attention and getting someone to listen is like, okay, now you're listening. Now let me like tell you what I think. And if you relate with it, great. And if you don't, then cool, man. Go find what like meshes with you. Right. And so like I make that conscious decision every day that everything that I do in that day is going to do one of two things. It's going to move the needle closer to my end goal and my dream of all dreams. If everything in my life went exactly perfect, that's what I would get, right? And every move I make in my life, I try to move that needle closer, right? And most importantly, I try to make sure that like I'm moving the needle that's going to take care of my family. And for me, like those go tandem. I know like I'm going to give them what I want by getting the things that like I'm pursuing, right? And in the interim, the goal for me every day is in the interim, how do I make sure I'm moving that needle, but also making sure that everybody's provided for it in the meantime.
Right. Yeah. Do you ever feel like, this is something that has been on my mind recently. Do you ever feel like, whether it be God or the universe, that there's something pushing you and it pushes you to certain milestones in your life? I like to look like I always relate it to a stairwell. Mm-hmm. You kind of plateau at some point, and then just one decision takes you up just a little bit more. And it always feels like there's something. And whether it be somebody that comes into your life that just brings it up, or you think about it one day and then somebody randomly brings it up and you're like, oh, maybe that's something I should do. And that just barely happened with this podcast. I put it off for a couple months. I was like, oh, I'm busy at work. I'm doing other things. And then I was like, I should do it. I should get back into my speaking. And so I started to do a little bit of speaking. And then this girl I was talking to was like, hey, like, are you doing anything with that? I'm like, I probably should, which led us to me reaching back out and hoping to get onto this. So is there anything like that where you feel like God or the universe or whatever you believe in pushes you?
Totally. Let's talk about Hawaii again. So when I was in Hawaii, bishop of a Mormon ward down there, like, did a lot for me. He let me come work at his house for a little bit. He had all these boxes in his garage with like all these shirts and stuff in it. He's like, oh, this is like a friend of mine who I helped like store this stuff here. You know, this is his business. It was called B Hood, right? It was a Brotherhood clothing. It was a clothing company. And I thought maybe he was the owner. I didn't really know the ins and outs of it. All I knew is I was going to organize and like count how many of each size of the shirt it was, right? And I'd put it back in there. And then he gave me a t-shirt and I was like, sick. And I go back to my cousins and he's like, hey, where'd you get that? I know that guy. I know the owner. I'm like, oh, you know so-and-so? He's like, no, that's not the owner. Like, this is the owner. That's like a partner, whatever. Anyway, right? Long story short, the actual owner of the company's name is Patrick Baker. I'm home with my wife. We're up shopping at the mall, and I'm walking through the mall, and I'm like, hey, look at those hats. That's a Hawaii company. Like, I used to see this van, like, down North Shore all the time, freaking selling T-shirts and hats. And I was like, I know, like, one of the owners or investors or something. Like, I don't know. And this guy comes over, and he's like, hey, bro, like, so I'm the owner. I'm Patrick. Like, you know, we start talking. I'm like, oh, well, you must know Dave Fulmer then. And he's like, oh yeah, like Dave. You know, I remember tearing shingles off that roof, and he's the one that taught me about the movie script. You know, he's the one that told me like, hey, you know, like this is what you got to do. He spelled it out for me right there. We had this really great, beautiful connection, and we've continued to like kind of talk and chat. And you find these little mentors, you know, these old timer souls that come and find you along your journey and kind of give you little sprinkles of wisdom to help you along your way. And like there's certain parts of my aspects of my life that like I do every day that are like I felt like I was guided through like for so long, right? And it's hard to even explain. Like depends your level of faith, I guess, and depends on your beliefs. But without getting like in the weeds about things, like it just is like one of those undeniable things where you know like, oh, this was like a meant to happen moment, right? And you start to like create little bookmarks about those moments in your mind, right? Where like you find your team, right? Even like the video that we just shot for American Proud, like when I had the idea for it and then I wanted to film it, it was like I knew exactly who I was going to call. And a big shout out to the whole team over at Cornerstone and like the Origin Project, because like I reached out to them with this idea and he said, it just so happens that like we're getting ready to do this other thing that like I'd love you to be a part of. And like, why don't you come down and shoot the video? And now it looks like maybe they're going to want to use that video for part of this project. And it's just like one of those things where like, if you know what you want to do and you keep your mind set to that frequency and your spirit set to that frequency, like 100% of the time, every move that you make in your life, whether it makes sense or not, like for me has translated to be something that like prepared me for something coming up. Right. And that's been really beneficial for me because, you know, they say like success happens when like opportunity meets preparedness. Right. And so like my mind doesn't shut off on how to move that needle forward because like I'm determined to make sure I'm prepared for the next opportunity that pops up.
Right. I'm reading this book. I was just going to try to look it up, but it's by John Maxwell about success. And the biggest factor that stops us is ourselves and the lack of belief in ourselves. So has there been points throughout your life or recently that you're just like, you know, something just doesn't go your way and you're like, oh, maybe this isn't it.
Yeah.
And then I think that we all go through that point and you have to make the decision to keep going when everything feels like it's not going to.
Mm-hmm. You have this journey, you know, life goes like this all the time.
Right.
It's always coming up and down. And it's like really easy on those lows to like feel like, oh man, it just didn't quite happen this time. I guess that's it. You know, and I think a lot of people like on a lot of attempts of things, you know, you get that 1, 2, 3 times and man, it starts to get old. Like, you know, you get burnt out and it's like you're beating your head against the wall. And, you know, that's where like understanding that it's your purpose comes into play, right? Understanding like, cause I couldn't have pushed through some of like my letdowns and my trials. Like if I didn't know just like, this is what I'm meant to do. And being as broke down as I was in Hawaii played a huge part in me being able to rebuild myself because I came back so in pieces kind of, right? That like I had an opportunity to like completely reprogram my subconscious, right? Like I was so beat to crap that it was like, okay, I'm just going to completely reprogram the tape that plays in my subconscious every day. And that's where like the movie script that Patrick recommended to me like changed everything. Because like I could see it so clearly, right? And I didn't know the details of like how I'm going to get there, but like sure, slowly but surely, like there's one little things that like I can, maybe it doesn't check something off the list, but I can see like the stone that's laid in front of me to like get to the next step of the journey, right? And he talked a lot about that with me, like reprogramming your subconscious. Like when you come into this world, you're exactly who you're supposed to be, right? And then like your culture, who you are as a person, the way you're raised, all those types of things start to create your personality, right? But it doesn't define who you are as a human being. It just defines what you are brought up in, right? But if you took me, and Patrick uses this example, if you took me and you put me in like Ethiopia, right? I'd be a completely different person from A to Z. Like no doubt about it. Same spirit, everything, I'd be completely different because you're a product of your environment, right? And so like as you start to change your external environment, you understand that you can reprogram your internal environment. And as you start to really focus on reprogramming your internal dialogue and your internal being, right, your external world will follow. But everybody wants to fix all the things on the outside first, and they don't focus on anything on the inside. And all you end up doing then is putting out fires left and right? Or like trying to keep one fed, and then this one starts to struggle, right? And it's like the yin and yang. You've got to feed both wolves, right? And how do you do that? Well, you start to fix what actually is inside feeding the wolves, which is your subconscious, right? Because you can shut your conscious mind on and off. Your subconscious keeps going. Your tape's still playing. The experiences of who you are, what you felt, what you've been, who you're going to be, they play in your head all day, 100% of the time, no matter what. So if you can't start to dictate what that sounds like, you'll never dictate what your outcomes look like. But if you can start to dictate what that looks like inside, then you can start to dictate and predict the outcomes a little bit more. That's how it's been for me. Like I've been setting up things in my life that like now I'm watching come to fruition that are like, fuck yeah. I don't know if I can say that, but yeah, it's like, I'm so stoked because it starts to like play out, right? It starts to get exciting. It's like, oh, I can taste it a little bit. It's like, oh, that dream's so close now, right? And then you hit another slump and it's like, oh shit. And that's where I'm so blessed to have like a partner that's like, well, pull your head out of your ass and change it then. You know what I mean? Like,
Also, she also has the vision, you know.
she understands it. Yep. And I'm blessed with that, to have her that. And I have bandmates that understand that, because I don't like, you know, when you're gigging like at the phase that we're at, we have some really big, great gigs and you have some really shitty gigs. You know what I mean? Like where it's just like, you don't make hardly nothing. And I've got these professional caliber musicians that come and play with me, and they've like understood that like maybe we're not going to make a bunch, but like they're behind like what I want to say, and they believe in like what I'm trying to do. And my wife is my biggest proponent of that. And if I didn't have that, trying to be a family man, and my wife didn't want to like buy into like what I'm trying to do, I'd be fucked.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a famous quote, but there's a quote that someone asks a billionaire or a millionaire, somebody said, what's the biggest factor of becoming a millionaire? And he said, who you choose to marry. Yeah, and the more that I've been single, the more I realize like it is. When I first started this podcast, and if you listen to episode 1, I even say in there, I'm like, you tell me what a woman benefits in my life, because I feel like I could do everything by myself, and I'm going to be just fine. And the more that I've like tried to extend myself, the more you're like, oh, I could see how someone could help me here. And maybe that's the purpose. That's the purpose of having someone, and why we have the desire for connection is because when you find the right person, it is what puts you to the next level. Yeah. When you find the right person, it's what you wouldn't be able to reach your full potential without the support of someone. Yeah. And it's incredible you found that, and you she
puts up with a lot, bro.
I love that you found it. I love that you found it in the darkness of everything.
I'd have to say she probably found me, and my sister on the other side of things probably played a huge role in that, and being like, please will you just accept all the idiot things that he does and just help him not be such a dumbass all the time? And luckily she just like grabbed that and was like, I could see how maybe he won't always suck so bad.
Right. That's good.
Yes.
But your example of like fixing the internal part of you is I really like that, and I can't wait to go back and like re-listen and dissect of what that is, because that's kind of what I've tried to portray to people. I'm like, dude, what? And I think that's also the beautiful part of trauma. Yeah. Is that there's a time that your brain gets to be reset. Yeah. You know, when you have something traumatic happen in your life, your brain is an opportunity. Yeah. And I've given this advice on here, and it's been given to me, and I give it so many times because it's my favorite. It was my brother-in-law gave it to me, and he said, you have 2 choices right now. You either go be a piece of shit, or you can go make something yourself. And when I go through things, I still repeat that all the time. And that was years ago. And it isn't until you really have an introduction to yourself, which is the internal part of things. When you have an introduction to yourself and understand who you are, and going back into like your childhood, why you react the way you react, why you make the decisions that you make, it all ties back into who you were. And until, which I love the word until you make these conscious decisions to change it, you're just living subconsciously. Right. And that's why people get stuck in this like cycle of life. And when you get stuck in the cycle of like day to day and monotony, that's where you find sadness and depression. That's where it thrives. And when you find purpose and there's something to wake up to and something that to push forward to even more every day, that's where happiness comes from.
Oh, yeah. And I feel obligated to like get out there and do that, right? Like I feel like that's my calling. It's my calling to like do what I'm doing. And so like I chase that full-heartedly. At the end of the day, if it's really just me, like I'd love to just be in my backyard playing around a campfire, hanging out with my family, and freaking cruising around in my shopping cart trying to get a micro pop from the ice cream lady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those are the good days. Freaking racing down the hill, building roller coasters out of freaking garden stakes in my backyard. Like those are the days like I love. And having kids is like totally allows you to just do that and like have fun, right? Without like just looking too
Yeah,
weird.
one of my core memories of life was when we steal that plywood? I don't know where we got it. We might have put it back. We might have borrowed it
I don't know.
temporarily.
There was houses being built around.
I think we put that plywood and then there was that grass circle.
Yeah.
And we're like, if we get our longboards, we could build a whole loop around there. We could make it back. Do you remember this?
Yep.
So we stole a stack. We put it back. I'm 90%
I'm sure we put it back.
I was a good
At
kid.
least until the next weekend.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I love that. So where you want to be, and then you have to get out of to find success, you have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And it seems like you're doing that and you're pushing forward and you really are leaving something for your kids to be proud of.
Oh,
And as they get older, like Axel's getting a little older and he gets to be a part of what I'm doing. Usually he's here setting up the podcast for me.
Cool.
And so he was kind of disappointed he had to be at school today.
I know.
And said, how am I supposed to get paid? He said, how am I supposed to get paid?
How am I supposed to get paid, Dad?
If I can't be there to set it up.
Trying to stack that money.
So
Kids are crazy, bro. Like my 3-year-old, she 4 years old now, I guess. She's got like the wildest little personality, dude. I can't even like describe it. It's like she does these little dances and stuff. And I'm like, where did you come from? Like, what? You are the coolest little being, right? And my even littler one, like, she's so funny, dude. She just like, you ask her, you want to go take a tub? I do. And she just waddles right over to the staircase and she's like, let's go then. I want to get in that tub, you know? It's like so funny. And so you just like think those little things that like just stand out to you. And then like I have this unique case where like now I've got these other kids, they're 14 and 19, right? And watching them, like my daughter just turn into like this stellar little adult, like so responsible, taking care of her shit. It's like so fun to see. And then like watching, you know, that like junior high into high school age where
it's
you
an awkward
like
stage.
don't know what you're trying to do with yourself.
But you think you do?
And you, yeah, or you know exactly what you want to do and nothing else matters. That was totally me, dude. And like all I could think about was like music, man. Like sports went out the window, school's going out the window. It's like, I just need to rock climb and play this guitar and snowboard and I'll be good for the rest of my life. Yeah, you know. That's,
for a time, for a season.
That's been pretty good for me, but there's a lot of things that need to fill in the gaps of that for sure. But, you know, it's just an ever-evolving journey. And, again, big shout-out to Patrick Baker. A lot of, like, what I talked about when, like, I talked about the movie script, reprogramming my subconscious, like, that comes from what I was taught from him, who came from somebody else. But I'd like to give him his credit. And if you guys are around in Vegas or here in Utah, you got to check out Be Hoodwear. Some of my favorite clothes, unique and all its own.
Perfect. Well, the last thing I want to give you the opportunity is, well, two things. If there was one piece of advice you could give to the world, what would it be? And then a little bit of a time just to put your own plug
on things. Yeah. I would say, like, don't ever doubt your spirit. Like, don't ever doubt what your spirit's telling you to do. If you can operate from that spot in your life and just follow like the deepest internal parts of like what's guiding you, you'll probably be okay. The moment you start to like question yourself and your purpose, like everything goes out of the window. And if you don't know what your purpose is, like my advice would be to go out and try a whole lot of things until you find something that speaks to your spirit.
Right.
Because like I get a huge joy out of like helping people and playing music, right? And so like I've created a life to try and make that go hand in hand. And that's like what I would recommend people to do is find something that like you can do something good with that you're passionate about, and you'll probably find success in your life.
Yeah, that's something that's been, as I've studied success, I would say the biggest thing is when you do it for others is when you'll find the most success. The people that do it for money or fame or usually fall off, but because it doesn't do the same thing for your soul as it does when you lift somebody up. So great advice. And the plug for Tyler Gould.
The plug for me, yeah. Make sure and follow on social media at Tyler Gould Music. We've got a song that just came out a couple weeks ago. We've got 2 more on the heels of that with a third not far behind. So please go check that out wherever you listen to your music. And thank you for having me out, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being a part of it. This has been good to finally get it done. And Tyler Gould, Gould. So go check him out. I'll link him into however you link into people, and then
We'll do a tag in there.
and that'll be perfect. So I appreciate you. You want to play something? You brought a guitar.
I'll play the newest one that we put out, American Proud.
Do you need-
Yeah. Streetlights buzz on the old main drag. What was once a comfort, now a half-mast flag. You came to show us how to live, and stand for what we believe in. Well, it never should have happened. No, it never should have happened. But not around here, not my hometown. I'm so sorry we let you down. Well, not around here, not my hometown. I'm so sorry we let you down. Well, put your name up tall, American proud. I fear the world, how it corrupts. But all I think it really wants, a place that's safe, the youth could talk and figure out how we go on. Well, it never should have happened. No, it never should have happened. Not around here, not my hometown. I'm so sorry we let you down. Well, not around here, not my hometown. I'm so sorry we let you down. We'll put your name up tall. We'll put your name up tall, American proud.
If you ever want to record in here, it sounds great.
It sounds great, dude. I was actually thinking that, like, on my way up, I was like, Logan's got such a sick little background in there, dude. We should just do a couple other videos.
Thanks for listening to the Logan Hillyard podcast. If today's episode moved you, inspired you, or made you feel a little deeper, do me a favor and share it with someone who needs it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people find these conversations. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your healing matters, and the darkest parts of life can still lead to something beautiful. Keep going.